Hi, friends. The story goes that a couple took their 4-year-old grandson to worship on Sunday morning. The grandmother sang in the choir, so she told the young boy that he'd be sitting with his grandfather in the sanctuary. She took him aside and she gave him $1, instructing him to poke his grandfather every once in a while to keep him awake during the service. Well, the grandfather slept through most of the service. And afterwards, the grandmother took the boy aside again and asked why he hadn't followed her instructions. He said, "Grandpa gave me $2 to let him sleep." Occasionally, people do fall asleep in worship, even in our worship services. And you know what? I'm okay with that. I know that some people are on medications that make them drowsy. And if you are so busy or so stressed that you can sleep sitting in these hard pews, you must really need it. And if worship brings a sense of calm and peace to your heart and mind so that you can finally relax, well, who can argue with that? Now, if you fall asleep just because you're bored, well, then maybe the preacher needs to work a little harder, or maybe you need to rethink worship. Some people think of worship in the same way that they think of the theater. It's a show that they're going to listen to and watch, a performance. And so it's easy to get bored or to get distracted if the preacher is off track or the choir is off key or the hymns or songs are off your top 10 list. This model of worship envisions God as the prompter behind the stage. It envisions the worship leaders, the pastors and the musicians, as the actors on the stage, and the audience is the congregation. In this model of worship, congregation members are passive observers. So it doesn't really matter if they fall asleep or even show up at all. Søren Kierkegaard, a Danish philosopher who lived from 1813 to 1855, suggested a different model for worship. He imagined God as the audience, the congregation as the actors, and the worship leaders as the prompters. Worship is for God. God is the one we want to please. He's the audience of one. The worship leaders are simply the facilitators. We whisper the next line or the next movement to the congregation, the actors, to help you put your best foot forward and give your all to God. With this model, Kierkegaard reminds us that biblical worship is the work of the people. We call our order of worship liturgy, which literally means the work of the people. Worship isn't something we watch or consume. It's something we contribute to and participate in. It's much harder to fall asleep when you're actively participating than when you're passively observing. Whether you worship in person or online, think about your role in worship. Not for me or for the people around you, but for God. And for God's pleasure and glory. In genuine worship, we are all singers of hymns and songs. We are all prayers of prayers. We are all givers of gifts and sharers of grace and hearers of the word. We're all participants in the drama, which expresses to God just how valuable and important God is to us. Thanks for listening. I'll see you again next week.